Hello again, and welcome to Political News, Political Views, the show for the average person, the show that we hope will make you think. It might make you use a few four-letter words listening to us, but no teleprompters, no cue cards, no idiot boards, just whatever comes out. I'm here with my partner, Todd Schleiger, but before we start, I want to, the last show that we did, I kind of lost it. Actually, no, I didn't lose. I went wacko. Todd and I get very passionate about what we're talking about, and I think that people should too. That what I've noticed is when you see something that you know is wrong, when you see lies, when you see things that just don't make sense and they're justified, it can anger you. And I think, unfortunately, the average person doesn't get heard, so I guess we kind of live with it. But I want to apologize to you, Todd.
No apology needed.
Well, no, I was wrong. I was out of line. The nice thing is, Todd and I are friends, and our battleground is this table. But once we leave the table, it's left here. We have our opinions. What's really amazing is we agree on way more than what we disagree. But when we agree, who the hell cares? So, that's the amazing part. But when we disagree,
we've had our moments.
Yeah.
But we always leave as friends. But, I mean, we've had our disagreements outside of this studio as well. And we still...
Yeah, but the other thing is that I have learned in our conversations, I've been corrected on a few things. In fact, a lot of things. And the perspective that you have on it, I look at myself and I said, you know something, he's right. And I think that our arguments, discussions, Chautauqua, whatever you want to call it, we do walk away better. And I think that if people can do that, because right now that's very difficult to discuss things.
That's an art that's been lost.
Yes.
I mean, with technology nowadays, our phones, I mean, they text more than they talk on the phone nowadays. We used to, as kids, we used to remember dozens of phone numbers to call our friends. Now, most of us can't even do it. We have to just go into our contacts and hit the name.
Well, I have to admit, I was on Twitter for the first time. I didn't get on. Somebody got me on because I'm too stupid to do that, to know how. I'm not computer savvy at all. I mean, I know how to plug it in and how to hit the on button, but after that, I'm lost. It's a good thing my kids are smart. So the thing was, Twitter can be very therapeutic. I mean, you can bitch and piss and moan all you want.
I pretty much stay off Twitter.
It's there's some good points on there, but there's a lot of
I don't like the
blood.
bickering. I mean, it gets downright nasty.
Yes, it does. And
even Facebook can be that way as well. All the social media. It depends on. I mean, we can't stay in our safe zones, all our lives. And I understand that people have to get out. They have to intermingle and socialize.
But that we don't do. It's really amazing that I found when I went to school many moons ago that people, you learned how to speak. You learned how to debate. You learned respect. I have to admit, with Twitter, you don't need that.
Nowadays, though, the problem is they're not learning like we used to.
Social skills.
You're right. Yeah, the social skills. Now they're learning how to be offended, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to use a different word, but I'd just say we've raised, and we have to blame ourselves.
Yes.
We've raised a wussified generation. They expect everything given to them. They don't like to work as hard as we were brought up to work and earn. And this is just my opinion. Doesn't mean that it's the end all for anything, but the fact is, I mean, even in the line of work I do now, the quality of personnel that I come across, I want to make the money, I want to make the hours, but when it comes right down to it, they don't want to work.
No. I will say this. When I was on a cruise ship, and I worked there for 12 years, there was a cultural difference. And what we were told, we were an American flag ship. Now, when the cruise line decided to go with American flag ships, the whole industry laughed. They
Right.
said, oh, no. Not American workers? Oh, hell no. You're going to fail. You're going to go right down the tubes. You're going to go bankrupt. Well, what I found was that international, you were what you did. For example, if you were a chef, if you were an engineer, you were Todd the engineer or Dave the chef. That was your station in life. That was what you were.
Right.
And they lived to work. They got up in the morning. The purpose in life was to work and work hard and make money and take care of your family. That's what they were focused on. Mm-hmm. And there were some very good workers, excellent workers. Then the Americans came on board. And what was unfortunate was that Americans work to live. They want 2 cars, 2 wives, several kids.
We're more
Few houses.
materialistic.
Yes. So they will work so that they can get the latest and greatest phone coming out of Best Buy, and they will plant themselves there 2 weeks before it comes out so they can get the first one,
Right.
even though it doesn't work.
Right.
What was it, the i9, the one that blew up in your ear or something?
I don't know.
But they waited out there for
I
it.
think it was a Samsung phone that used to catch fire or something.
Yeah, I remember that when the Wii machine came out, how they parked themselves out there, and Target only had 20 of them.
Right.
But there was over 100 people. Imagine that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the thing was, though, the American workers were good. They just had a different perspective.
Right.
Not all of the international people. It was about equal. And to say that the American worker is not good, I'll disagree with that because there's too many that are good. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that aren't. And I think maybe it's the purpose. One thing I used to tell them, and like you were just saying, with the drivers, you're a good driver, out of 5 people, 4 are good drivers, and 1 is crap.
Well, I've always said, and I've managed my own trucking company. Mm-hmm. I've managed other trucking companies. And I've had this phrase that I used to use all the time. I mean, drivers are a dime a dozen, but there's only 1 good in that dozen. I mean...
Well, my point was...
and that's just the way it is with the industry. But they're saying there's such a shortage for drivers. I mean, years ago, before you could even get a local job, you had to have 10, 15 years over-the-road experience. Now, they'll take you right out of a truck driving school. Half of them can't even drive a manual transmission. They're taught on automatics. So a lot of these companies are going to automatics for these trucks, just so that they can put some of these people behind the wheel.
Yeah. But my point was this, that as I said, you have 4 good drivers and 1 bad driver. Okay, that 1 bad driver, he brings down the company. Because regardless of whether it's driving or working in a store or working in a hospital or working anywhere that you are, that person, when they do a half-assed job or they don't do a job at all, or they disrespect the customer or they don't want to show up for work, what happens is when the reviews come through, they say the company as a whole. So this store was horrible, even though 4 of the employees were great and 1 was lousy. I call it, you sharing my shit. And the reason being that if I'm the lousy employee,
Right.
regardless of how bad I am, you will be judged by the whole. They aren't going to come through and say you and you and you are good and he wasn't. They're going to say this store, don't bother going there, it's lousy.
Well, it's a lot
You
of that
carry-
is because they remember the bad more than they remember the good.
Exactly, but you carry the reputation of that company when you leave.
Well,
Does that make sense?
Basically, the employees are the face of the company.
Exactly. Now, when we were in Hawaii, a lot of the crew, they would go out and they would get drunk and they would make damn fools of themselves. Well, unfortunately, for the ones that didn't, we had to absorb some of that heat, and that wasn't fair to us. And I used to tell them, if you want to ruin your job and you want to ruin your livelihood, that is your business. Have at it. But when you start interfering with mine, I have a family to feed. I have things that I have to do. And your actions inside the ship and outside the ship are detrimental to me. Now I have something to say about it.
Well, a team is a team, no matter how it
Yeah.
reflects.
Now, there are some that are not as good as others. That's different. There's some that lacks the skills. That's different. If you make an honest effort, that's fine. If you just don't care, that's not.
Well, I agree with you on that part of it. I mean, if you're in a job you don't like, go find a different job.
That's easier said than done.
Well, that depends on what profession you're choosing, because I can go out, I can quit my job today and have another job tomorrow.
Okay, you and I are up there. I won't say how far up we are. we're coming down the hill where everybody else is coming up. And I've done my time. And I'm...
In my profession, in the transportation industry itself, it's that way with anybody who's a driver. You can quit your job and go and have another job within a day or two.
Well, my point is all these years I've worked 2, 3, and for a while there I worked 1 full-time and 3 part-time jobs. I did it because I had to.
Right.
Not because I wanted to. I had to in order to survive. I've done my time. I've explained, I'm very proud of my boys because I was able to bring them to work. So they watched what I did, and I was really shocked. To parents out there, one thing that I hope you notice, your kids are watching you, and they will emulate what you do. You would be amazed at how much I've watched in my boys their work ethic and how they do things and how they interact with people. For example, I would tell them, you hold the door open for people.
Right.
Now, you don't ask them, you just do it. If you see them struggling, you go over and help them. You just do it. I did it, they saw me do it. And I told them, this is the proper way. What I'm amazed at is they still do that.
Well, I mean,
and I'm proud of them.
That's why, as we raise our kids and other kids see how we react and act when we're out in the public and stuff like that, they still pick up on even adults that aren't their parents.
But there were
The
teachers.
behavior. I mean, if our kids are going to school, how the teachers react, like at school, how they behave, our kids pick up on that as well. I mean, it's not just the family unit that raises our children.
Oh, no.
It's the village itself.
No, it's actually more than that, because you can throw in the family unit. Mm-hmm. Yes. Church, religion, school.
The religious
town,
aspect, that's why I said it's the village that raises the kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what size the community is.
Go further. Media.
No,
TV.
No.
Oh, no. I'll disagree with you on that one.
The reason, people for years have blamed TV for their children and video games and stuff like that for how their children behave. It's no matter how you do it and if you raise your children properly,
okay,
they're going, and I know this statement's going to upset parents. I don't care.
I'll disagree with you on this point. I'm not saying that the TV has an absolute effect, but it does have an effect. And even the teachers at the schools told me, one of them called it the Bart Simpson syndrome.
Yeah, they got a syndrome for everything.
Okay, well, here's the thing. It was kids back-talking, kids smart aleck remarks.
We've been doing that as kids all our lives. Every child does it.
Okay, what did they do when you did it?
Oh, I got the backhand, and this is why I say this. We're probably the last generation, pretty close to it, that had corporal punishment?
Okay.
All right, that we got in the belt.
Tell me this.
When I went to catechism, I remember the old tri-shaped rulers that got busted across my knuckles for touching something I wasn't. Did I touch it again? No.
Well, catechism, the nuns just didn't do anything.
No. The nuns, they made sure that you were corrected if you did something wrong.
When I say media, listen to what they say in the music. Okay, let's say the interaction between men and women. A lot of those songs...
we can make excuses.
I'm not making an excuse.
We
can
make excuses for everything that our children are doing wrong. The facts are the facts. If we teach our children right from wrong, and when they make the mistakes, correct it, instead of letting them... I've sat there and watched parents laugh at their kids for doing something that isn't really funny, but they find it humorous.
Well, there was one lady who had a little girl, and she said the word shit. Well, it was funny. She was 2 years old, and she went all up and down the house. Well, then when she became 7 and 8, all of a sudden that wasn't funny. Well,
wait till they get to be teenagers and they tell you to go F yourself.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is, and answer this question. If you tell these kids, if you do this, this is going to happen, and they do it, and nothing happens, is it really wrong?
Depends on what they did originally.
Well, when I went to Catholic school, if you missed church, you were going to hell. So I kind of wondered, well, not at that time, but damn, if I missed church and I was going to hell, then why should I go to church anymore? It's kind of over with. I'm already have a reservation. But it's you have to go further than that. You have to explain why. You don't. Okay, when I brought up the music and the TV shows, we still can't figure out how Lucy got pregnant, because they had separate beds. They couldn't even say the word pregnant on TV at that time.
Right.
And they ended up having to, as the story goes, they brought in a priest, a rabbi, and a clergyman, and they all sat down and said, well, let's look at this. Now, how are we going to do this? This is back in the 50s. Now, you can see it happening. It's firsthand. Sometimes with no commercials.
Right.
Sometimes there's a commercial in between, so it got to make you wonder, did they take a break or something, or was it continuous? Even the way some of the songs, and I'm oldies. I'm strictly oldies.
Right.
But some of the songs now, it's like, wow. And I asked one girl on the ship, I said, wait a minute, did I hear what I just heard? Oh, yeah. Do you play a song in front of your mother? Oh, no. Well, why are you playing it in my kitchen? You know.
Well, she's evidently old enough to work. She's
Well, I
in
made
your
the
kitchen.
food spoil, you know.
I mean, after a certain age, yeah, our kids grow up.
are we
my
losing?
kids, my kids will tell you at 18, if they weren't in school, they weren't living in my house. You know,
But are we losing the respect for each other?
for each other?
Yeah.
For our generation, no. Are the younger generations losing the respect for the older generation? Yes. I believe so.
I've noticed, I see why, because I always wondered why most of the politicians that were older and the priests were older and that, and now that I'm older, I see why. Because one of my coworkers, he came up with a line. He told me one day, he said, you tell your son that in the book of life, I've written a few more chapters than you. And I thought about that. He was right. We want to say a kid is an adult at 18. Well, on paper, yes. But in life skills,
No.
you couldn't possibly.
Look, as we grow older, we're still learning something new every day, whether we want to admit to it or not. When we stop learning, you're dead.
My one son, he had some friends come over, and they were telling him how life worked, you know. Well, you just go and you just tell them this. And I stopped and I said, young man, let me ask you a question. Do you own a car? No. You got a job? No. Do you own a house? No. Then shut the hell up. What are you telling him how life works when you don't have any idea how it works?
That's how they get around with it.
Well, I caught myself doing that, but which brought up the apology because I was wrong. I am, as you are, as people out there are. We are passionate about what we talk about. Mm-hmm. What we're lacking is accurate, honest information. And when I was running for office, that was one of the things that I focused on. I said, I will bring you accurate, honest, independent information, not based on money, not based on party, not based on... This is the issue. You bring it to the people and you say, okay, this is what it is. This is how it affects you. Bang, bang, bang. This is how it doesn't affect you. Bang, bang. Maybe it doesn't affect you at all. And if it doesn't, maybe we can use this to get somebody to help us out on an issue that we have. But that's not how it is. And I know when you ran for governor, you were the same way because you would discuss things with people, but you also did something that a lot of them don't. You listened. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of them come in, they spew their rhetoric, and then they walk off. Mm-hmm. Now, there was one young man that he was spewing some garbage, and I won't go into the garbage because, I'm trying to keep this calm down today. And I asked him, he said, I don't want to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. And I said, well, the comment that I made wasn't, but he walked past me like, you're nothing. And you want to represent me. You want to represent me in Congress, but here you treat me like I'm nothing.
Yeah. And see, that's what a lot of our politicians do. We've said this before
our
on
bosses
earlier
too.
We've said this on earlier shows. They're here when they want to vote your vote, but once they get your vote or they're elected, then they disappear.
Now, here's a game that I play, and I'm encouraging everybody to do the same thing. Get on your computer. This is one of the few things maybe I do it because I force myself to do it. Get on your computer, get their district offices. When you call these guys, male or female, doesn't matter, let them know you work for me. That's the part that they forget. When they come to ask you for your vote.
Most of them don't admit to it.
Well,
that's the problem.
But my way of looking at it was, I'm asking for the position of representing this district. And it's no different than if you're running as shop steward. I would like the position to represent all of us, and this is what I will do. And there's a right way and a wrong way of doing it. Now, I've said before how many times I took no money because I felt that if I did, that I would have to have some bias, and I just refused to do that. Now, on the surface, that sounds great. That sounds like I'm on the up and up. But that is not what people go for. They want to hear, by today's standards, they want to hear the worst of everything. We have come to a point that the good people don't run because they don't want that. We all have a past. We all have a past.
Yeah, others are worse than others. But at the same time, I think the majority of the people want, and I know this is a hard thing to believe, but they want an honest politician.
In theory.
Yeah. But the problem is, the majority of them that are politicians have been politicians for a long time. The majority of them. And I mean, and if they haven't been a politician, they have ties with the politicians.
Well, I think what's happened today, and this is one of the things, this is probably why I never won. You had to sell your soul. And I refuse to do that. Because if something is wrong, it's wrong.
Right.
And if you cannot stand up for that, if you cannot say and understand why it's wrong, now, a difference of opinion, a point of view, that's different.
Right.
But something that is absolutely wrong, and yet you stand up there and you lie. And what makes it so bad is that everybody's lives, okay, we talk about politicians lying in that, and there's, well, some lie more than others, and some are Olympic liars.
I know if I said that name, you just
I'm
top of your head would just
I'm
go
busting,
off.
but I'm not. I'm trying not to. But my point is, these lies can cause up to death. This is not funny anymore. This is not a joke. When you tell a lie, when you tell something that is not true, when you incite people on a lie, and then, it's one thing that people will argue. It's another thing when violence comes in. And when it does, somebody gets hurt, or somebody's life goes down, or somebody's life is ruined. That is not funny. We've overstepped, and I wonder if we can ever go back. Because
these two political parties have crossed lines that I don't know how we can go back.
I don't know that we can.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't know how we could, but the fact is, it could be made better. It isn't going to. I mean, there's no way to go backwards.
Well, the thing is that people, the average person, which is why we do this show. Okay, I'm no scholar. I'm educated beyond my intelligence, and when any of you figure that out, let me know. But when people are so ignorant, and that's the nicest thing I can say right now, when they're so ignorant that they will not check, they will not look, and even when the truth, even with fact-checking, they still will not believe it.
That's because they only want to believe what their party says.
Okay, if their party, like I say, and this is both. This is not. We're going to stay neutral on this one, but it's both parties, and it's not just with the political parties. It's with life itself. We have city managers. We have county executives. We have people even in our bosses who don't understand what's going on, and yet they can tell us, and we know they're wrong. If we listened, if we stopped...
My bosses will tell you, I'll tell them they're wrong.
Well, no, I mean, if they would stop and listen, if we all would stop and listen and say, okay, we can disagree, which we do.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that we have to become enemies. And now, in the last 3 years, I have heard on the radio for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, stay away from politics. Do not invite people that have one side opposite yours, to the point that we've taken a holiday. I thought Black Friday was bad. I mean, Black Friday disgusted me, because I would go and make and work 3 days on the dinner, and they said, well, we got to be out of here by 4 o'clock so we can sit outside of Target, so that when they open at midnight,
right,
we can get in there. Well, next year is TV dinners, and take it with you, because I'm not going to do all that. But then now, you can't invite everybody. We can't sit down and celebrate, be thankful for what we have, because we have enemies now because of how they think. And it goes both ways.
I can honestly say I don't have friends like that. I have many different friends that think differently than me. Like you, we have our differences, and you and I have had some knockdown, drag-out arguments over opinions.
We still sit at the restaurant.
But the minute we walk out, and or go away to the next, talk the next day, everything's fine. Most of the time when I leave here, no matter how mad you get, I'm waiting for the day when when you're in the middle of an argument, and then all of a sudden you just grab your chest. I keep picturing that. So, but at the same time, I'd save your life anyways if I could. But I have friends like that. And they're different nationalities, different religious beliefs, and everything. I don't pick my friends because of what color their skin is, what religion they are.
Yeah.
I pick my friends because I generally like the person. And I mean, I have some very liberal friends, even though I'm a conservative. But I also have my liberal side too. But that's why I've always been an independent all my life.
Well, see, we've had that discussion before, and I still believe that when you do a generalization, I am a conservative, I am a liberal, I am a far right, far left. But when you break it down to issues, I think that's when upbringing and all those, there's a lot of facets to how people learn as they come up. And for example, I was born in Detroit, but I grew up in Boyne City, which is a very small town. When I came back to Detroit, my boss used to say, you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. I mean, I learned small town values. When I came down here, they didn't have small town values, so I had to be
educated.
Yes. And so I think when you take issues, you take a person and say, okay, let's look at this issue. And the two that we bring up that really probably has the biggest divide is the abortion and guns. Those are two that will be fought until doomsday.
Time. Yeah.
But neither side is 100% wrong when you come to the issue of they're going to take all your guns away. That's horseshit. That's not even possible unless you want to get rid of unemployment. And then you hire a whole bunch of people to collect guns, and that should bring us down to zero unemployment, because that's not going to happen. And the thing is, you can't go to the other side and say, well, nobody should have a gun. That's ridiculous too. Right. So we have these two extremes, and yet
It's funny that you brought that subject up.
Well,
right
no,
now.
but
That's a subject on there.
Can't we come into the middle? I'm not against guns, so I'm not way over here. I'm not the liberal, just I'm a Democrat. No, because there's too many people that are respectful of guns. They handle them properly. But I'm not over here where I should walk down the street and carry it like a decoration. It is not a decoration. I don't see that you have to walk with a gun to show something.
There's a lot of people out there that are carrying that we don't see it, which is fine. It doesn't scare me to see it anyways.
No, but here's 2 points that can be tied together, which we brought up. One, we don't know how to talk, but we do know how to react.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what is causing, I think, a lot of these
The majority
shootings.
of the gun owners,
Not just guns, police officers, anyone with a
the
gun.
majority of gun owners are responsible
Yes,
people that do not react.
exactly. And there's a lot of good cops out there.
Mm-hmm.
More good cops than bad. However, with the shootings, there's more and more and more. Why? Because you pissed me off. I can't sit down and talk with you, but I sure as hell can get a gun and blow your head off. Now, that's not a very nice thing to say, but yet and then they're shooting for what? A lot of these mass shootings don't even make sense. As somebody who has mental problems, okay.
Anybody who's doing a mass shooting has a mental problem.
I'm not
no matter how you look
going
at
to
it.
justify the mental part of it. However, even in this state, we don't do enough for the mental aspect. People do go off the deep end. I got to throw something in, off to the side. My wife used to watch the ID Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
I had to sleep with one eye open. I mean, every damn one of those shows was about, let's see, wives with knives, serial killers, this, that. She watched this show, and I was wondering, is she looking for an out? What I mean? What it showed was, take it in your own hands. And that's where the talking, the conversing, we don't do that.
Right.
And if we did, how many of these shootings might not happen? If we had the mental health where we saw somebody with a problem that they could go and talk to somebody, but who do you go to? Who do you go to now?
Well, I go to you. Get the anger out, and then I go off and I feel
we do
fine.
That. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't started some forest fires.
I mean, there is help out there, but
Yes,
it's
there
not
is.
as prevalent as it should be.
Yeah.
The whole thing is, like I said, I think we've created the majority of our own problems. We've wussified our generation. We've made them reactive instead of able to talk. They react before they actually think about what they're going to do.
Teachers, when I was in school, you did not backtalk. You showed respect.
Now, I said this before, too,
But
and this
they
is
listened.
another one. The first thing that they did was they took away the fear of the parent. This is the first step to the downfall of our generation that we've raised.
I can agree with that.
When we did something wrong as kids, the first thing that popped into our head when we knew we did something wrong, my mom or my dad is going to kick my tail. And half the time the neighbor did it all the way to your house. But at the same time, that was the first thought. It wasn't, well, man, the cops are going to come get me and throw me around. Or if you did something. I can remember in high school, yes, it was high school, my freshman year. I made a smart aleck remark to my science teacher. Next thing you know, I'm up against the locker, I grew up fine. I raised 7 kids, I mean, nowadays people don't want to spank their children. Fine, don't spank their children, but when they get older and they do they do something stupid to get in trouble, look back and say, maybe if I would have swatted them on the butt once with my hand, maybe that would have changed that.
One of the funny things for me when I was coming up, well, when I was very much younger, our neighbor kept building paddles for my mother.
My kids remember mine.
he would cut them and he would put the hand groove in, so that
you get a good grip.
And then he would drill the holes for wind resistance, and it just. Now I was like 6, 7, and I do remember the taste of soap.
Yep.
Dial.
Mine was lava.
I didn't have the lava.
You got the grit with it.
Yeah. Then when as I grew up, the belt, you'd want to get hit with your father's belt because it was thicker and didn't leave welts. Those women's belts, especially the ones that had that little piece of metal on the end, the ones that would leave a welt and a scar, you're down there bleeding. And one thing I found with my parents as I got older was 50% of the time I probably did what was done.
Right.
Okay? But my mother, I think, knew when I didn't do it by how I protested. And I noticed that in my kids when...
Well, here's the thing. When we made corrections to our kids back then that way, I mean, yes, there is a fine line between child abuse and a correction.
Yes.
Okay. When the mark is on their butt, that's a correction. Okay. And if it's on their back, their arms, their face, that's abuse. In my eyes. Always has been. Okay. That doesn't mean, somebody can go out there and take a 2x4 and paddle their kids on the butt with it or something. I mean, you got to have some kind of common sense, but at the same time, that's, in my eyes, that's where the abuse line was.
But let me throw another aspect in here. I don't know tell me if I'm legitimate or not. The people that we looked up to are no longer deserving of that. I mean, priests, ministers, we hear about what they do. Police officers. Police officer was somebody, when you saw a police officer, that was a hero. That was somebody with respect. And we don't, what's happened? Sports stars. We used to have heroes with sports stars. Now what we do, we hear about them choking their girlfriend. And, well, one that blows me away is this quarterback down in Houston. I can't mention his name on TV. I don't know if I can or not, but I won't. He's got 19 charges, 19 sexual charges against him. I don't get it.
Well, I never looked up to any of the sports people.
I did.
I can remember, looking up to judges. It was also because they sat up higher.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, people when you walked into a courthouse or a courtroom, I should say, you were in awe.
Yes. Yes.
Nowadays, people walk in there and they're afraid.
Yeah.
The majority of them, because we don't like not knowing. I still respect police officers, and I actually got a ticket on the 1st. Heck of an April Fool's Day, right? Which I'm going to court to fight the ticket. I can't understand how I got a double parking ticket going north on 75.
That was like when I got a ticket and the guy told me.
He said he gave me a break. He said I was speeding. And I told him, I said, no, I don't speed. I had my cruise set and all that. I'm not going to argue with him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he says, but I'm going to give you a break. He says, I gave you a parking ticket. I looked at him. I said, that's going to be a good one to explain in court.
I had one where I got pulled over because I didn't have my proof of insurance. And I wanted to go to court.
Right.
Because I wanted to ask the judge, Could you ask the officer how the hell he knew I didn't have my proof of insurance from his squad car while I was driving?
Right.
That's what he said he pulled me over for. No proof of insurance.
Yeah, like I said.
That was good.
I mean,
I enjoyed that one.
Have you ever read the tickets? When they put it on there, it says they'll check a box on there. It says everything on this ticket is to the truth, to the best of their knowledge.
I never noticed that.
Yeah. And I looked at that and I says, that's perjury right there. Just saying I was parked on 75. I want to know how I was double parked. And I won't say the city or the police department, but I went onto their website and I looked at it. The speeding ticket, he said I was doing 83 and a 70. And I always set my cruise at 75. And the next morning, I had the cruise set right where it was, and I went right by the same officer. Nothing.
Well,
But anyways, I looked at it. The fine for the ticket for the speeding was $130. The fine for double parking is $155. He gave me a break so I wouldn't get points or it wouldn't get reported to my insurance or anything like that.
but
It's a scam.
if you didn't do it,
That's
so,
why I'm
yeah.
fighting the ticket.
Yes.
Well, here's the kicker to it. One of my best friends got pulled over yesterday by the same police officer. And he said he was doing 76. Cop wrote him for 82. Gave him the same break. Double parking going northbound at 75. And I asked him, I said, is this cop's name such and such? And he says, I'll let you know when I get to work. Because he says, I'm driving right now and I can't see it. So, because we go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. So he gets there, he calls me back. He says, yeah, same officer. I says, was he at the mile marker such and such on 75? He says, yeah. It says right on the ticket, near such and such exit. I said, yeah, he's there every morning.
See, it's really sad because our kids, I look back on how I grew up, and you know something, our kids missed out on some really nice things. And, I don't see much there for them now. I mean, right now we're in a bubble, or we're in I don't know what the hell you want to call this. Pandemic is not the word for it, because our whole world has been turned upside down. I mean, we see people dying. You know, today 74 people died of COVID in Michigan. Over 8,000 new cases. And
you see, the numbers that I'm seeing that they're reporting for new cases in Michigan, I'm gonna, my opinion only, they're comparing them to a month ago in March and beyond. Yeah.
Oh, okay. A month ago. All right, I see what you're saying.
And the problem that I'm having, they've even compared it back to October. The problem I'm having with this is the amount of testing we're doing now is like 200,000 a day. And that's just an estimation. I know that I don't have my piece of paper that I prepared, and I forgot to bring it because I wanted to go here with this.
Oh, you thought it was going to go wacko.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well,
So so I looked at this, and I'd done my research. It's like near 200,000 a day they're doing testing now. Back in October, they were doing like 60,000, somewhere right in there.
Well,
And the more you test, you're going to find more positive. But at the same time,
that's why.
it's the deaths have gone down
Yes.
considerably.
Well, yeah. I mean, we had that huge peak. Now, could we reach it again? Who the hell knows?
Well,
we don't know.
I'm not saying anything about that, but the whole fact is the deaths have gone down. The majority of the hospitalizations had gone down, except for now Now they've changed their tune because now us old folk, most of us are vaccinated, and most of us had adhered to what they wanted us to do, but now they're blaming our college students for going down to Florida.
It goes a little further than
So-
that, because it isn't just the COVID, it's the tying up of the hospitals. Because there's people that have cancer, there's people that have heart attacks, there's people that have
Well, first
accidents
off,
at home, and it ties up beds, which it overwhelms the system.
we didn't get close to overwhelming our hospitals during the peak of it.
Now, I'll disagree with that, because I know of a hospital that
We didn't get
I
close
used to
to
work-
overwhelming our hospitals. What we did get close to overwhelming was the personnel.
No, because there were 2 hospitals that were overwhelmed, and the ones up north also were, but you have to remember too, these are small hospitals that have huge population over a greater area. Okay, it's a lot of small
Where
towns.
are you talking up north?
Western side of the state. Up
Because
near
I know-
Cadillac and
I know-
Kalkaska and that, you know. we
Yeah,
have
I
Munson
know up
Medical
north
Center.
they didn't have the positive tests up there or anything, hardly at all.
No, but
it was
then,
all
then when it
southeastern
did come,
Michigan.
Yeah, when it did come, it hit hard, but it hit in pockets, and then
Either way, I'm not going to live in fear of it. And
Well-
there's a commercial I've heard, and it has nothing to do with COVID. It's a young girl who asks her grandfather what he has for words of advice for her. And all he says is, I have 3 words for you. Live with courage. And for that resonated with me.
okay,
Because the fact is, I'm not going to live in fear with the politics. I'm not going to live in the fear of this virus.
okay, I'll agree with that, but
I go on with my life. Yes, I got my vaccine. The only reason I did it is because I fly international. So, and that's one of the main things to get on a plane. I have to have my vaccine.
okay.
So.
I'm going to bring up a couple of things. Maybe they're connected, maybe they're not. In World War II, 293,000 soldiers died over a 6-year period.
Yep.
Okay. In 1 year, over 500,000 died. Now, the effort that we put towards World War I, World War II, I don't think we did as much during Vietnam or Korea. Korea was almost was a sideline. It didn't seem to grab people. After the TV show MASH, people actually knew about Korea. Many people didn't know about it.
Right.
But we made an effort then to combat this. I believe with this COVID, let's do what we got to do, get it over with, and get on down the road. I think to prolong it, or I have rights, just let's get the vaccine, wear the mask, stay 6 feet. It's slowly starting to go away. Now we're hitting a bump.
Do you see all the issues that it's causing, though, with as much as she has kept our economy down?
Well,
I mean, you got mental health issues now.
Well, now,
more
wait a
than
minute,
what
wait
we
a minute.
had.
That's across the-
You have
that's across
higher
the-
crime rates. You
that's
got half.
across the country. That's not just Michigan.
Oh well, no, I'm just worried about Michigan.
I'm
I
going
don't
to tell you
care
a
about the
sad
rest
story
of the country.
because there's another governor who has absolute power, and that's the governor of Hawaii. The difference is that the people in Hawaii are culturally, and these are mostly native Hawaiians or people who have lived there for a while. When they're told to do something, they do it. They don't question it. They just do it. So if you tell them all to go jump in the sea or go up into the mountains because there's a tsunami coming, that's exactly what they do. They go up into the mountains. They don't say, well, why do I have to?
Right.
They had 200 deaths. However, they are strict beyond reason. They put Gretchen Whitmer and any other governor to shame. Now, did it work? Yes. The thing that they don't have is the bitching. The people, they have that few, but those are people that come into Hawaii and then leave. They don't stay. But the Hawaiian people,
you got to remember, Hawaii is
I agree.
An ocean-locked place.
I agree. But what I'm saying is, the point is, they did what they had to do, and they don't have a lot of the stuff going on in these other states. Okay, my thing is, let's get it done, get it over with, and get on down the road, because I don't think we're ever going to hit what we were before. I think that's gone.
No, I think it'll come back to a certain extent. But do you realize within 20 years we're going to have another pandemic?
I don't know. I didn't know we were going to have this one.
Every 10, 15 years we get a new virus.
I don't know.
That's just, you go back and look.
It's possible. I don't know.
It happens. It's nature.
Yeah. Well, we could have another flood. If God tells somebody to build a cruise ship with take 2 of everything,
That'd be an awful big ship.
Yeah, well, I've seen them.
I'd bet on the pandemic more than with the Ark.
Yes. Unfortunately, the show was over.
It was a very peaceful show.
Yeah. I took a chill pill before I came here.
Oh, I'm just high on life. I worked 14 hours today. I'm tired.
Yeah, next week, we'll probably get into it more. As I say, we may have a new format next week. We'll see when I see the whites of his eyes. That's how it'll be. And hopefully I get a haircut, because I can see my hair is, growing beyond.
Yeah, I need a haircut too.
I don't know why it keeps growing down when it, I need it to grow up and over. So, and I don't understand why the barber charges me regular price. You only do half the work.
Hey, they got to make a living somewhere, and it's only us old bald guys that come in there. So,
so anyway, this show was kind of boring. Maybe. I hope it, again, all we want you to do is think. Don't take what politicians say. Think on your own. Investigate. Look to see what's real. They may give you a fact. Maybe part of that fact is true.
Homework for
maybe
next
all
week.
Of it. Maybe none of it. But find out for yourself. If we're going to be that stupid, then we're just going to be, what lemmings or lemurs? What's the one that runs into the river?
Lemmings.
Lemmings? Well, there's a river there, and I'm not running in it. I don't know about you. So I will see you next week.
We'll be here.
Thank you for tuning in. We'd like to hear some comments from you.
And I promise next week I'll get Dave wound up.
Yeah.
I'll make sure of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Have a good night.
Everybody.